Hello and welcome to Binya Outdoors Bass Class. For those of you who are not familiar with me, not familiar with my channel, my entire goal is to teach anglers of all skill levels how to catch more bass, how to catch bigger bass, but the most important thing is how to do this whole thing on a budget. Let's not break the bank to enjoy this hobby, but also be able to get out there and catch the biggest fish of your life. If that's something that interests you, please keep watching. I want to start with the financial part of it and talk about the cost of your average store-bought jig. So these are two very common brands that you're going to find at just about any tackle store across the country. Googan, Strike King. Across the country, they're well known. I know there's 100 other brands that make jigs, and that's not the point of this slide. The point of this slide is to talk about the pricing. $6, $4.49. We'll round it to $5. Most jigs cost you about $5 in the store. If you're buying them online, you're going to pay more for shipping. If you're buying them in store, obviously you're going to pay tax. So either way, you're going to run around $5 to $6 for a good quality jig, more for tungsten, etc. So I'm going to show you guys what it would cost to make your own. So black and blue swim jig is how I priced this out. I'm doing this as a thin skirt, so I'm using one tab. And a tab costs $2.50 for a 10-pack. So it's 25 cents a tab. The head, this pricing right here, if you're using a swim jig head, is pretty similar across the board for most brands. I like Boss because they're inexpensive, but they also are really good quality. So they're $7 for a 4-pack, so that means $1.75 a head. The band is literally 2 cents, and you'll understand what this is used for later when we make the jig. So, it costs you $2.02 to make the same color swim jig as this right here. I know there's a little bit of a difference in the head. I know the color may be slightly different in the skirt. But I can tell you, being on the site that makes these skirts, you pretty much can find an exact match to what you're buying for $2.02. So for every swim jig you buy, you basically get one free if you make it yourself. Now I did throw in the skirt making tool here. It's $4. I didn't include it in the price per jig because you're buying it one time and you're going to use it forever. These things don't wear out. They're plastic and metal. You'll never need to buy another one unless you lose it like I did, but ultimately this isn't included. I also didn't include shipping and handling for these parts because, again, once you have the materials, you're going to be saving money. You're saving about half of what you would pay for a jig in the store. And if you order the jig online, you're going to pay the shipping anyways. So $2.02 per jig is what it costs to make one of these yourself. Now the other thing I want to show you real quick before we get into the actual making of this is what you have for options. This site is the site I use. I am not sponsored by these guys. I have no affiliation with them other than I love the fact that they have so many options. These are the different styles of skirts you can buy. Now just to go really simple, we're going to go into the Finesse series. This is all the color options that you're going to be able to pick from. As you can see, there is a lot of different options, and this is just in one style of the skirting. Now, green pumpkin, black blue, colors that sometimes you just can't get in the store because they sell out. This finesse brown. What's awesome about this is you have unlimited options to be able to find the color, maybe add a little bit of orange into a green pumpkin. You have those kind of abilities when you make your own jigs. The other thing you can get in here is you can actually get Boss jig heads. Now, Boss is a company that I trust. I've caught a lot of fish on these jig heads. They have just about every style, as you can see, of head you could ever want. Even going all the way up to punch skirt setups. So, that's the purchasing, that's the supplies that you need. It's just a skirt, bands, and the jig head. That's it. Now, if you want to go really far down the rabbit hole, Do It Molds makes molds for these. So you can actually mold your own jig heads, which is going to reduce your cost even more because you're going to have your own lead, your own hooks. You can customize all that as well. But for this video, we're talking about just doing store-bought, store-painted jig heads and doing it with the materials on this website, everything you can buy on this website. I will put a link down below to this website's URL. Again, not affiliated with these guys. It's just a one-stop place that you can get everything, and honestly, it's one of the best pricing-wise I've found. Okay, now for the fun part. These are the materials I'm going to use. So you start out with a jig head. This is a swim jig head with the weed guard on it. You can thin these out a little bit if you want, but ultimately this is what I'm going to start with. The next thing is obviously the skirt material. This one, a little bit of a craw pattern. Got some dots and some lines in it. This is one that actually comes in a kit that comes with the tool. This one is one I bought recently. As you see, it's a similar, but it's got that little bit of fleck in it. I wanted to try to make a bait specifically that I don't have in my arsenal right now. Now, this is a really simple process. It's really easy to make these, and I just want to show you guys the whole process end to end. So, this little metal piece right here, it actually goes in the end of the tool, and you put a band. Now, this is a green band. There's a lot of different colored bands out there. There's even some that can hold a rattle. You simply put it on the end of that tool and roll it onto the tool. Just like that. So now you have your band on. Now you take your little hook right here. You'll see it's got this little loop on the end. Stuff it through the tool. Now you hang your skirts on that hook. Now what I want for the effect is I want that glittery part on the inside. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to wrap this over there and see how it looks. So see, that's roughly how the skirt will look when it's on the bait, and that's the look I'm going for. So I start with this color on the back, this color on the front, and I hook it to this hook. Just hook it right through that little tab, and you pull it through this tool. You come out about halfway, and you'll see why in just a minute. So I come out about halfway, about right there is where I want it to be. And you pop this rubber off on to your skirt. Now, take this hook out. You actually have a skirt now. The first thing you want to do is trim off these tabs. Grab my scissors. So, cut these free. You'll see the little tabs on the end. You cut through them. Freeze that skirt. Now, I always put the shorter end on top because I want my skirts to be a little bit thinner. But you'll see how that's splayed out like that. Cut the other end off. So now that skirt is basically free. You'll see how it balloons down just like that. To put it on your jig, take your jig. I usually try to straighten the skirt out as much as I can, and you kind of bend this weed guard back with your fingers, stuff it through those hooks. Now what you can do is spin it down a little bit so you can see that hole. You want to kind of go through the middle. Stuff it through, slide that up over, go one more over that bump. So now that you have that skirt on that head, you kind of hang it and look at it, and you go, okay, I want to stretch this one out. Kind of get yourself where you want everything to line up. But for the most part, that's kind of the look I was going for. It's a thinner, wiry skirt. You got the inner part and the outer part. It's all umbrellaed down. When this gets in the water, it's going to flatten out a lot more. and the first few times you fish it, first times fish hit it, it's going to mess with this skirt a little bit. Like right here, I don't like how that's lined up. It lined up a little bit off. So you just kind of pull those threads through, twist them around until you get it to really umbrella down. If you got pieces you don't like, you can trim them out. You can thin this skirt. You can do whatever you want, because essentially this right here is just like your store-bought jig, but this one cost me $2 to make versus spending $4.99, $5.99. Now, a little trick I want to show you guys kind of as a bonus. I bought something last year because I got into chatterbait fishing, and I wanted to be able to make my own custom chatterbaits. This right here is called a switchblade. Now, what's really cool about this thing is there's little tabs on here. See those tabs? If you bend these out, this is made by Queen Tackle. I'll actually put a link down below to where you can get these, but you can get them on Tackle Warehouse as well as Queen Tackle's site. Now, you have to have a bait with a vertical line tie. So what I mean by vertical line tie is you'll see that this bait, the line tie is horizontal, whereas this bait, the line tie is vertical. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this in here, just like this, to this side actually. Spin this up here, and then you put that metal piece where it needs to be. And you pinch that lip back in. What that's going to do is effectively make yourself your very own homemade chatterbait with your line tie here. And I just made my own chatterbait. So just think about the fact that I just made a chatterbait that I can use for under $5. You aren't going to buy a jackhammer. You're not going to buy a custom chatterbait for that price. And that's the main reason why I want to show you guys this process. So the last point I want to make, and one of the reasons why I wanted to make this video, is you don't just have to make a brand new jig from scratch. You can actually make yourself a chatterbait skirt. You can make yourself a jig skirt, even a spinnerbait skirt, using the same technique I just showed you. And what that does is it prevents you from having to run to the tackle store, buy a brand new $8 chatterbait, $5 jig. You can, for pennies on the dollar, make yourself a skirt to fix a skirt that got ruined by a bass. Change out a skirt that just doesn't work. Maybe you bought a color, you thought, man, this is going to work. You've used it over and over and over again, not caught fish. You don't have to throw out that head. The head is very valuable, as you saw by the pricing. So you can actually take that skirt, rip it off that jig, make one in a color that you know works for about 25 cents. Make one that's going to work in your area. Replace one that was not working, that was beat up. The whole point of this is that you could save yourself a ton of money by not running out to the tackle store to buy a brand new jig when you can simply just replace the skirt for pennies on the dollar. I hope this video helped you guys out. I hope it helps you save money, helps you create your own custom baits to help you get out there and catch more fish.